Ah, yes, those relics, or artifacts, if you will. The general Macguffins that the hero wants to save the day, or that the villain wants so that they can bring their nefarious schemes to fruition. Either way, it's that thing that is being hunted down by both the good guys and the bad guys that will make all the difference. And as voted on by fans across all of social media, we look at the top 10 Transformers artifacts, relics, and, well, overall general Macguffins. That's going to be our topic this time around on this lovely Monday in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, loud on my baby. And hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all of the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that is in the description down below. Also in the description down below. And if you are in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through spring. Or, of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. And this is, of course, Monday. It is, of course, Countdown Day. All of the votes have been cast, counted, tallied, put together, and we have the top 10 Transformers relics or artifacts, the things that they hunt for making the difference in their struggle. You know, sometimes the Decepticons want it, the Autobots want to avoid them getting it. Sometimes the Autobots want it or need it, and the Decepticons want to avoid them getting it. There have been a lot, and there were a lot of votes. Naturally, like I said, this is the top 10. We're going to do the honorable mentions first. These three had votes. They did not quite make the list, but they are certainly very traditional. One of them is, I think it's a stretch. It's a bit of a weird one. The first one is Cybertron itself. I don't see Cybertron as an artifact or a MacGuffin or a relic. It's a planet. It's like saying Earth is an artifact. I get it. Like, the couple of people that voted for it said, yeah, but it's where all life started for Transformers, so it got to be well, Earth is where all life started for humanity, so I think it's a stretch for that one, but there were votes for it, so I said I'd mention it. The Apex armor, specifically the armor that Miko used in Transformers Prime, though the Power Master Optimus Prime, like that upgrade armor that in Japan is known as God Bomber, is often known in North America as Apex armor. And the Requiem Blaster, perhaps the most destructive of all blasters, the thing that originally stopped Unicron. Hard to deny the power, the might, and the impact of the Requiem Blaster. Plus, it is the thing that really sent Megatronus into the tailspin to become the Fallen, and it's also the thing that ended the existence of Solus Prime. But none of them made the list. So what did? Well, you know what we're going to do. We're going to kick things off with number 10 first. Coming in at number 10, and I gotta believe that this is because it was recently released, is the Sword of Primus. For those who don't know, this is basically a sword that appeared in the Regeneration 1 comic. It was used, I think, exclusively by Hot Rod or Rodimus. It came recently with the Kingdom Rodimus Prime. Basically, long story short, it is the sword that was used by the creator, Primus, and it can be used by anyone that he deems worthy of using it. Sounds a lot like Thor's hammer, if you ask me. Anyway, you cut it, whether it's because it recently came out or whether there's a lot of fans of the Regeneration 1 comic, there were enough votes that the Sword of Primus came in at the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9 is something that may be more myth than relic, depending on the continuity. In some continuities, it was lost during the Great War. In others, it was a creation of the Knights of Cybertron. Either way, it's generally held within the Temple of Knowledge and curated by Boltrax, and it is the Underbase. The Underbase is kind of like, imagine that each Transformer has their own data track that is their memory, right? Or a database, if you will, like their own hard drive, that's their memory. Well, underneath all of those hard drives, there's like an overriding hard drive, like a server, if you will. That's the Underbase. It is the accumulated knowledge of all Transformers, held in a temple, curated by Boltrax, a source of immense power that I think even Starscream used, maybe during Regeneration 1, to try and rule all. They say knowledge is power, and perhaps there's no source of knowledge for Transformers any greater than the combined knowledge held within the Underbase. Enough fans felt that way that the Underbase was able to take the number 9 slot. Coming in at number 8, and speaking of Primus, we have the Omega Lock. And for those who don't know, the Omega Lock basically serves 2 functions. One, it is the thing where 4 Cyber Planet keys can be inserted into. The life force of Primus was basically divided over these 4 Cyber Planet keys. When they're locked in here, then basically Primus's life force is reunited as the creator. Additionally, once that is done, there is the ability to cyberform planets, as shown in Transformers Prime when the attempt was made to cyberform Earth by way of the Omega Lock. Megatron never got real far with that in the conclusion though. The Omega Lock, the reunification of Primus's essence. When you have a device that can basically bring God together as one life force again, that's pretty darn powerful. That is quite a relic, and enough fans felt the same way that the Omega Lock and the Cyber Planet keys. To be fair, the votes that came in for the Cyber Planet keys, I lumped them all in with the Omega Lock because in essence this is really the Omega Lock and the Cyber Planet keys. Yeah, I absolutely agree that this deserves to be on the list, and the fans felt the same way that it took the number 8 slot. Number 7 takes us to perhaps the most important tool in all of Transformers with the Forge of Solus Prime. This is the MMC Salvia Promenon. I love her Forge. But long story short, this is a third-party version of Solus Prime, and that is the Forge of Solus Prime. If you want an actual version of the Forge, it comes with Transformers Prime Magnus as his Prime Hammer, but it's the Forge. It is the thing that's used to make everything else. It makes other tools, it makes weapons, it made the Requiem Blaster, you know? One of the first artifacts, one of the most powerful artifacts, one of the most historic artifacts, and the one that is absolutely identified with the original 13, specifically Solus Prime. How can you argue with its significance? Enough fans felt that it was an important enough tool, an important enough artifact that it took the number 7 slot. Number 6, I thought I had a version of, and I might, but I can't seem to find it. I have a funny feeling it might actually be in the chest of my Elita 1, my Power of the Primes Elita 1. And what might go in Elita 1's chest, you ask? The Enigma of Combination. It is the thing that allows Transformers to connect to other Transformers. It is considered an enigma because nobody really knows how it works or why it works, or to the extent of its power. It is so enigmatic that presumably the only one who truly understands it is Nexus Prime himself, the first of the combiners. Where it started, what its limits are, that is enough to give it the name of the Enigma. What it does is make things combine, hence combination. One of the most mysterious of artifacts. Enough fans felt that it was important enough, and that combiners are important enough, that it was able to fall on the list in the number 6 slot. And a hush falls over the crowd as we reach the most coveted of locations. You know where we are. We are at the halfway mark. And at the halfway mark we have an artifact that can snuff out stars, destroy planets. It is powerful, and it can be used for great good or it can be used for great evil. I'm talking about the Star Saber. Now this is the Dark Star Saber, or if you prefer, there's this 3D printed sword that our buddy Justin from the 3D Corner gave me. I don't have an actual Star Saber, so I can't really kind of show that, but this is kind of close to it. Would need some paint, and it's not exactly right. It's actually meant for a Dinobot, but it's all right for purposes here. I kind of already explained the Star Saber, and we talked about it last week in the countdown with the melee accessories. The Star Saber is one of the most important, powerful, brutal, or magnificent of all Transformers artifacts. Enough fans felt the same way that the Star Saber took the number 5 slot. Here in the top 4, at number 4, we have the enigmatic Golden Discs. This is the Voyager one, but there are actually several Golden Discs. The 2 from Beast Wars are probably the best known. While the Voyager disc is actually a real thing, the way it's treated in Beast Wars is not quite real. On the Voyager disc, apparently there's a message from Megatron that guides Beast Wars Megatron to almost totally change the future. Totally changed the way the war went. We all know kind of how that goes. I don't want to ruin the story for anybody who hasn't watched Beast Wars, but it is significant and gives Beast Wars Megatron an opportunity to make sure that the Autobot and Decepticon war never ever happens by following the orders of the original Megatron. I would call being able to change the future quite impactful. Then there's the Vok disc, or the Alien disc. That one allows predictions to be made by Megatron about the Vok and their motives and their experimentation on prehistoric Earth in an attempt to control alien technology to again sway the war in his favor, in the favor of the Predacons and the Decepticons by association. The discs contain such monumental knowledge and such knowledge about the future of Transformers that in the past, Megatron was able to use it in his attempts to gain absolute control over Earth and possibly the entire universe. The significance of the golden discs, whichever one you prefer, because they all have something special. Let's not even talk about the one that's on Paradron, for example. There's a few of these. Any of the golden discs, all of the golden discs, they are all special. They are all powerful. And it's nice that the Vok one is actually called a Vok artifact and that the Voyager one is actually a real thing if you look it up. How can you argue with that significance? You kind of can't. Enough fans felt that you couldn't, that the golden discs, any version of them, comes in at the number 4 slot. Coming in at number 3, we have another artifact that has a lot of weird history to it and it's kind of disjointed, but it's the Allspark. If the movies are to be believed, then this thing is a cube. This version is, I don't know what it's called. It's like the hexagon one. There's a name on what that shape or that form is. I can't remember what it's called. But the Allspark is basically the source of life of all Transformers, is generally how it's recognized, right? It's generally recognized that a spark comes out of this, that the Allspark probably started out in the well of Allsparks, and that it is the conduit by which a spark leaves the well, goes out into the world, and becomes a source of life to create new Transformers. Now, are there variations on that theme? Absolutely. Is it absolutely clear what the Allspark exactly does? No, not totally. In fact, there's a couple of sources of life in Transformers, but the Allspark, any way you cut it, when it shows up, when it is mentioned, you know that something serious is going to happen. It is revered, it is mystical, if you will, and it is, in most continuities, the beginning of Transformers' life, the source of what makes them have their soul, if you will, their spark, their heart, their essence of who and what they are. Hard to argue with the significance of the Allspark. Enough fans felt it was important that it came in at the number 3 slot. Speaking of life-giving, speaking of a source of what makes a Transformer, we have the key to Vector Sigma. And Vector Sigma itself. So, some people get really confused. By the way, this is a nice die-cast version of the key to Vector Sigma. This came to me by Maximal 10. It's really cool. And it looks very much like Vector Sigma from G1. There are people who say Vector Sigma is the source of life, and there are people who debate it. Here's the way I've come to understand it. Now, to be fair, some of this is stretching, some of this is sort of headcanon, but it's the way that I've, in my research, kind of come to understand it in the simplest terms possible. So the well of Allsparks is basically Primus's heart. And that can only be activated when the Omega Lock has all of the Cyber Planet keys in it to reunite Primus's essence. Then a little part of Primus is in every single spark. The sparks are transmitted out of basically his body through the Allspark out into each Transformer. And then each Transformer is given their personality, given what makes them unique by Vector Sigma. So the Omega Lock unlocks Primus. Primus unlocks the Allspark to give life, to give a soul. And Vector Sigma is what makes every Transformer unique by giving them their personality. That's kind of how I've been led to understand it. I know, it's sort of confusing. But if you didn't have, my understanding is if you didn't have the Allspark, then there's no way for Primus's sparks to kind of get out into Transformers. If you didn't have the Omega Key or the Omega Lock, then there's no way to kind of awaken Primus so that he can breathe new life. And even if you had both of those things, you had new life, there's no way to make them anything more than an automaton without Vector Sigma and the key to Vector Sigma. This is what made Megatron Megatron, made Optimus Prime Optimus Prime, made Hot Rod, and made Starscream for better or worse. Very significant thing in Transformers for right, wrong, good, or bad. And enough fans felt the same way that it took the number 2 slot. And so here we are at number 1. And number 1 is the Matrix of Leadership. I think we all knew that this was probably a foregone conclusion, that the Matrix was going to take number 1. It is the thing that allows each successive prime to access the previous knowledge of primes before them. Think of it if you're a Star Trek fan like the Dax symbiote, right? It is able to go into different hosts, but it's lived hundreds of years, so it has accumulated knowledge. As soon as the host connects with the symbiote, now the host has access to all of those memories and all of those skills and all of that knowledge. Or think of it kind of like the Underbase. The Underbase is the accumulated knowledge of all Transformers. It is a immensely powerful artifact to be able to possess because knowledge is power. Well, the Matrix has that ability to access the previous knowledge of previous leaders, their wins, their losses, their strengths, their failures, so that you can be a better, more informed leader going into the future. If you ascribe to the version of the Matrix from the movies, it even was able to bring Optimus Prime back to life. Yes, it comes directly from Primus and comes down through the Prime lineage of leadership. How can you argue with the significance of the Matrix? More than once, it has lit the Transformers' darkest hour. That has to be the most important thing that any artifact can do. And enough fans felt the same way that the Matrix took the number 1 slot. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone from 10 down to 1 more time. Yeah, I can't argue with it. We did have votes for other things. For example, the Sword of Judgment from the last night that was taken off Lockdown Ship. Energon itself, though I kind of see that not really as an artifact. That's like saying oil or electricity is an artifact. It's a resource more than an artifact, I think. Fort Max specifically, the version of him from RID 2001. Grimlock's Crown I thought was an interesting one. The Dark Star Saber, mini-cons, because they could change the tide for sure. A plot for the Bay movies. I thought that was a funny one. The Magnificence, the Covenant of Primus itself, the Quill, the Oracle. What else do we have here? The Knights of Cybertron. And I like this one. This one had 1 vote. It was the only vote that came for this item. It was from the Lazy Eyebrow, and it was Cups Juice Box. I love it. I absolutely love it. Anyway, there you go. 10 down to 1. That's the best, most important, most significant, arguably most powerful artifacts in all of Transformers. Let me know if your favorite made the list, where your favorite made the list. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. Don't forget to also hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and know in your heart of hearts, in your mind, that somehow, some way, each and every single day, you right there, you do make a difference. You always make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres or the old fashioned way right here inside the videos.